Hey everybody, so normally this would be the part of the show where we do a silly skit or a advertisement parody or something like that, but we recorded this in the outro after the main portions of the show, and a few things have changed since then. First of all, we got a new president. In just 48 short years, Joe Biden has gone from being one of the youngest senators ever elected to being the oldest president ever elected. Furthermore, we also got a new vice president, Kamala Harris, who is not only the first woman vice president, but also the first African American and Asian American vice president. Also, I got a haircut, just to show that time has passed. So stick around and enjoy the show.
Recorded in Round Rock, Texas, in front of a live teleconferenced audience, it's the What's Update with Xander Quation.
Season 2 Election Boogaloo.
Oh hey! Welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander Quation. Let's get started. Before the election was called, Fox News distributed 2 memos telling anchors not to call Joe Biden president-elect, or use any of the president-elect graphics. Instead, they were told to say that, quote, Biden has enough electoral votes to win the presidency. Fox says this is due to Trump's lawsuits, but White House insiders say that once little Donnie hears this, they'll never get him down for his afternoon nap. Recently, a federal judge ruled that Trump can be personally sued for defamation for his denial of author E. Jean Carroll's rape allegation against him. Judge Lewis A. Kaplan of the Federal District Court in Manhattan rejected the Justice Department's attempt to step in and protect Trump in the defamation case. This means Carroll can move forward in suing Trump as a private citizen. Of course, if this citizen had kept control of his privates, he wouldn't keep getting sued. After the recent election, Oregon has become the first U.S. state to decriminalize hard drugs, including heroin and cocaine. Offenders will instead pay a small fine or have to check in at an addiction recovery center. Additionally, Oregon is the first state to legally authorize the therapeutic use of hallucinatory mushrooms. Next up, a petition to make their state flag blacklight compatible. In other election strangeness, Rolling Stone reported that some dominatrixes were using their power to get their subs to vote blue. If their submissives didn't register to vote, they didn't get to finish. I bet it was something like, if you need a reminder of how you should vote, look at the color of your balls. In a follow-up to a story we've been covering here for a while now, Keith Raniere, leader of the NXIVM cult, was essentially sentenced to life in prison. After being convicted of sex trafficking and other crimes, the 60-year-old Raniere received a sentence of 120 years and a $1.7 million fine. Seeing how this self-improvement guru self-helped himself to underage girls, I think he's probably going to need some guard help to keep other inmates from doing to him what he did to those young women. Members of the Court of Master Sommeliers, the Eagle Scouts of alcoholism, if you will, have been accused of sexual harassment and assault by 21 women. Of the 155 Master Sommeliers of the Americas chapter, 131 are men. I don't know about you, but, I'm detecting notes of patriarchy and, inappropriate touching. It's a vintage. Russia and Ukraine have fought over a lot of things over the years, but now they're fighting over borscht. A Ukrainian chef has filed an application with UNESCO to have borscht, a traditional beetroot soup, listed as an intangible part of Ukraine's cultural heritage. They better solve this soon before we have a repeat of the Middle Eastern hummus wars. Those wounds may heal, but you'll never get those beet stains out. Archbishop Wilton Gregory of Washington was recently named by Pope Francis to be the first ever African-American cardinal. Many see this as a step by Pope Francis to improve race relations and promote inclusivity within the church. But I also see it as a step to improve fashion. After all, Archbishop Gregory can actually pull off this red outfit. After winning by a landslide, New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern recently announced her diverse new cabinet. Of the 20-person cabinet, 8 are women, 3 are LGBT, and 5 are indigenous Maori people. including Nanaia Mahuta, a Maori woman who will serve as New Zealand's foreign minister. Mahuta has a traditional Maori chin tattoo and swore her oath in the Maori language. Not to be outdone, the United States re-elected an ancient constipated tortoise, and Miss Lindsay Elizabeth Graham debuted his Trump My Rump tramp stamp.
Yeah.
And now, science! A joint research expedition between the Schmidt Ocean Institute and Australian scientists discovered an Australian coral reef taller than the Empire State Building. The coral feature is more than a third of a mile tall and is the first large new element of Australia's coral reef system to be discovered in 120 years. Yeah, sounds like an awesome movie, like about a giant shrimp climbing the coral and then get taken out by stingrays and swordfish. We'll call it King Prawn. While they were down there, the probe also captured footage of a ram's horn squid. The squid has never been filmed in its natural environment before. Some say it looks like a burrito, but I'd say it looks like something you'd find in Lindsey Graham's nightstand drawer. Either that, or it's a Mitch McConnell fleshlight. NASA announced that they spotted so-called sprites and elves on Jupiter. The sprites look like 200-mile-long blobs of lightning with long tendrils, while elves are more disc-shaped. Alright, what's next? An unexpected hobbit on Uranus? That was bad. I'll apologize for that one. After a year spent drifting across the top of the world, frozen in sea ice, a German research ship returned home recently, ending the largest Arctic science expedition in history. The expedition was aimed at better understanding a region that is rapidly changing as the world warms. Said one member of the expedition, "We can't leave you alone for 1 minute! We leave and you have Australian bushfires, COVID and the Trump election! That's it! I'm done! Leg mich doch die ganze Welt im Arsch!" That one's for my homie. Thanks for watching. Ich liebe dich. We'll be right back.
Woo!
Welcome back. American educational philosopher Robert Maynard Hutchins wrote in his book, The Education of Modern Man, that the death of democracy is not likely to be an assassination from ambush. It will be a slow extinction from apathy, indifference, and undernourishment. So, here's the thing. Our democracy is in trouble. Big trouble. How many times must we suffer through the situation of one person getting the most votes and still losing the election? Why should the 578,000, yes, I said 1,000 here, people that live in Wyoming get as many senators as the nearly 30 million people of Texas? And Texans are getting doubly screwed because one of those senators is Ted Cruz. I mean, why not just give me a paper cut on my eyeball while you're at it? Let's start with the elephant standing on our necks. Can we realistically continue to call ourselves a democracy when the presidential elections of 1876, 1888, 2000, and 2016 produced an electoral college winner who did not receive the most votes in the general election? As of this recording, Joe Biden won over 4 million more votes nationwide than Mango Mussolini over here. When all the counting is done, Uncle Joe, President-elect Uncle Joe, will have won the popular vote with the combined population of 23 states that have a total of less than 4 million people. And yet, we had to wait on pins and needles for 5 states to sort through less than 200,000 remaining uncounted votes to declare a winner? The simple answer is, until we rid ourselves of the Electoral College, we're just not a democracy. Just a quick history lesson on the institution that holds our elections hostage every 4 years. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution created the Electoral College to act as a group of presidential electors with the sole purpose of electing the president and vice president. There are currently 538 electors, and an absolute majority of electoral votes, 270 or more, is required for the Electoral College to declare a winner. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 originally called for the president to be selected by members of the national legislature. While initially a popular choice, eventually, after much debate, delegates realized that a nomination by Congress could violate the separation of powers. Once the Electoral College had been decided on, including the apportionment of electors influenced by slavery in southern states with the adoption of the Three-Fifths Compromise, James Madison still had reservations. He still favored a direct election via a popular vote, but recognized that it would be difficult to get consensus on the proposal given the prevalence of slavery in the South. During a debate on the subject, Madison stated, "There was one difficulty, however, of a serious nature attending an immediate choice by the people. The right of suffrage was much more diffusive in the northern than the southern states, and the latter could have no influence in the election on the score of Negroes." Madison's words, not mine. The substitution of electors obviated this difficulty and seemed, on the whole, to be liable to the fewest objections. So, because smaller northern states were worried about being made irrelevant by larger, predominantly slave-owning states, the system that still runs our quadrennial presidential psycho pageant was born. Racism 1, democracy 0. While we're on the subject of small states, here's the thing, supplemental. Even if we get rid of the Electoral College, it will in no way address the inequality of representation in the U.S. federal legislative system. Currently, more than half the people in the U.S. live in 143 urban or suburban counties out of 3,143 counties or county equivalents in total. To make it even more clear, the 6 senators that represent California, New York, and Texas, yes, even Ted Cruz, represent the same number of people as the 62 senators from the smallest 31 states. That means that those states have more than 10 times the legislative power than 3 of the states people actually want to live in. America's non-white population tends to overwhelmingly reside in urban areas or larger medium-sized states. To illustrate, the 10 biggest states by 2018 census estimates all have higher than national average percentages of non-white voters, while the 10 smallest states mostly consist of rural, overwhelmingly white voters. Going back to our previous example, California, New York, and Texas all have higher than average numbers of people of color. And all of those people still only have 2 senators per state. The 10 smallest states with 20 total senators have a total population less than the Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth, and the Austin, Round Rock metro areas combined. Adding insult to injury, the good citizens of my beloved state of Texas keep wasting one of our highly valuable limited edition Senate seats on Ted freaking Cruz! Rural and predominantly white populations tend to vote Republican. Urban and large racially diverse populations tend to vote Democrat. While it would appear on the surface that the United States is a fundamentally conservative or right-leaning nation, given the number of states represented by Republican senators, House members, governors, and so on, when, in fact, the plurality of the American population is far more progressive than its representatives in government would have the world believe. There are more of us than there are of them. There's been a great video presentation on this subject making the rounds on the internet since the last presidential election. In essence, showing us that land doesn't vote, people do. The Three-Fifths Compromise was created during the Constitutional Convention in 1783 by small northern states to reduce the representational power of southern states in Congress by not counting slaves as whole people. Now, small, very white rural states are enabling an urban 1/20th compromise. Each of their votes counts 20 times more than one of ours. Just a reminder that in a proper democracy, Biden's 4 million vote lead would mean that it wasn't even close. We'll be right back.
Woo! Yeah!
Welcome back. Sometimes I'm not even sure how we can manage to get as lucky as we are today to talk to our very special guest. So we'll start with our standard question: who you, what's do, and why?
I'm Mayor Craig Morgan of the city of Round Rock, and
I didn't hear the second question. I'm sorry, Xander, but I want to make sure I hear it.
What's due?
What's due?
Yeah, what do you do?
What do you do?
Oh, I serve as the mayor of Round Rock. I'm sorry. And then that's not my full-time job. A lot of people think that as the mayor of Round Rock, it's our full-time job. But I also serve as a lawyer in my private profession.
Interesting. And final question, why?
You know, I grew up with a family where my mom and dad were very involved in the community, and I always made it a point that wherever I planted my roots, I would get involved, and one thing led to the other, and next thing you know, I'm the mayor of Round Rock.
All right. Can you give our audience a brief rundown on the basic demographics of Round Rock?
You know, I mean, we're a highly educated community, very diverse. As you know very well, in our school district, we have, I think, about 97 different languages that are spoken. And we're a fast growing community right now. And so it's an exciting time, but at the same time, it can be a challenging time with all the growth that we have.
Is there anything going on currently in Round Rock that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Well, you know, the big deal is next week we'll be celebrating our grand opening of the Kalahari Resorts. That's a $500 million resort that will bring about 1,000 jobs. And the timing couldn't be better because, as you know, with COVID-19, the industry that has been hurt the most is the tourism and travel industry. And so some of the people that have been laid off, you know, can be potentially hired by Kalahari. And I know they've had a couple of job fairs and have been going full force to hire people. So that is probably the number one big thing that is really happening in Round Rock right now. We just had an election yesterday. Usually our elections are in May. So we had it on Tuesday, I'm sorry. And so we'll have 2 new council members joining us early December. And so that, you know, those are the things happening. We kind of slowed down in November and December, but with COVID, who knows?
Is there anything else planned with the holidays coming up? Is the city going to celebrate in any specific way?
Yeah. You know, we usually, you know, our Christmas family night, I don't know if you've ever been to it, but it's a huge production that happens in downtown Round Rock. Obviously with COVID, we're changing it up this year. I've not gotten the whole plan yet, but there will be some kind of celebration for our citizens to be able to enjoy, you know, clearly in a safe manner.
All right. So I know the answer to this question, but why would you say that Round Rock is the best place in Texas or America to live?
Well, I just think it's a great city. I mean, you know, it's one of the safest cities in America. Our public education system is bar none, one of the best. You know, when we go out and recruit companies to come to Round Rock, one of the number one questions we get asked is our public safety. Our public education system. And so, you know, we're just a vibrant community and again, diverse. And I think you know, what's really becoming really cool with Round Rock is that, you know, people can live, work, and play right here in our city with the benefit of having, you know, the stuff in Austin. And so there's a lot of things the list could go on. We got great trails, parks, but those are some of the top things.
All sorts of very good reasons and straight from the mayor himself, folks. But seriously, people, don't move here right now. We are full. we are at capacity. If you could wave your hand to make any one instant improvement to our city, like any one thing, what would it be?
You know, I'd probably say probably transportation. You know, that's our, you know, we do a biannual survey, and usually our top complaint or where we struggle in our grading, we score above the national average every time in almost every category, but transportation. And as you know, it costs money. And so if I could wave the magic hand to provide enough roads and expansion in our roads, that's what I would probably say I'd do. Sounds boring, but it really would be important.
Yeah. Well, actually, while we're on the topic of like traffic and city infrastructure, is there any chance for getting a stoplight at the intersection of Rusk and Gaskell Road? Because that spot is a real mess during rush hour times.
You know what? That's a great question. I know exactly where you're talking about, right there by the Fellowship Church. We're in the process of getting ready to expand Gaddis School Road as a 6-lane divided highway, and I believe that there is a light scheduled to be there. So it will come. It will come as we do our expansion. And Xander, first thing we're doing is the first phase of that expansion is from Redbud down to past the church. So it's coming.
Well, that's awesome. That pretty much runs straight through where I work at the HEB on Gas and Redbud. So yeah, that'll be awesome.
Good. I shop there. I don't know why I don't ever see, but maybe with all the masks, I don't really remember.
Yeah. In what ways do you think that Round Rock is leading the way in municipal improvements?
Oh, I think we do a strategic plan every year, a 5-year plan, which is a short-term plan and a longer-term plan. And I think what we have done is that's one of the things I think that makes the city unique is that our infrastructure, we have really put a lot of focus on that. And so our utilities, our roads, our neighborhood roads, not just our, neighborhood streets. In the last 5-6 years, we've spent $30 million, maintaining them. We've started some funds for our park system out at Old Settlers. We have a fund for our indoor sports complex where when we get these fees, we put some of that money in a bucket, and it's strictly for maintenance and upkeep. And that's the most expensive thing to do. And so I think we've done a great job at that. Better than some cities. I travel all over the state, and I'll put our city's infrastructure against a number of cities. Now, do we have some areas we need to fix and work? Sure. And we're trying to work on those areas.
Like, sure, the highway needs expanding, but it's not like down in downtown Austin where like the roads all going around over this way. Like, definitely prefer these roads.
No doubt.
Given that the holiday season is probably going to come up really soon, do you have a wish list for future developments that aren't currently in the 5-year plan?
Yeah, I really, before COVID hit, there was a lot of talk for us to look at doing another indoor sports complex and another multi-purpose field out at Old Settlers. And 2 reasons for that. Number one, it allows more local use from our citizens because as we grow, we need it. And then it also puts us in a different stratosphere with tournaments that we bring in over the summer, which brings in more money to our city, and it's the least pressure on our services. So these people come in, they go have their soccer tournaments, they spend money, they stay in our hotels, and then they leave. But with the COVID, we've had to cut back pretty heavily on our budgets. And so that's something that would be my wish list. And then I'm ready for COVID to be over. I understand we've got to wear masks and do the right things, and I want us to do the right things. But, for someone like me that likes meeting people and talking to people, it's been pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a sentiment everybody's sharing right now. Pretty much from the start of my show, I've been very clear that Round Rock is my home, and I'm damn proud of it. So, does the city of Round Rock offer any incentives to TV or film productions to shoot or locate here?
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't at the moment. Our economic development efforts. We don't have a big, what's the word? That hasn't reached us. It seems like some of the other cities that are around us, they've done some filming. We've had a few things, I think, but maybe as we get our downtown, continue to develop it, that may be an opportunity in the future.
All right. So, in the aggregate, what does Round Rock offer that people just can't find anyplace else?
I think more than we could build trails for days. Our citizens, I believe, love our trail system. And so I would put our trail system and our parks up against a number of people. I mean, most of these all have parks and they have trails. And, I'm proud that, during COVID, we kept our trails open because we felt like our citizens needed that avenue to be able to get out. And I'm almost positive some of the surrounding communities that shut their trail system down, they came up and enjoyed ours. We're doing some new development in Old Settlers, more of a passive park area over there because people have just come out and really use it, and not just for the sports aspect of it. And so, I think just the quality of life, that we offer, I mean, it's being a safe city. I think that's one of the things that really intrigues people. When all the racial injustice was going on in the protest, we were fortunate we didn't have much of that. And I think it's attributed a lot to who our police chief is and what he's done with the PD. And they have, our voters passed a bond back in 2013, and we built a $29 million public training facility. And, so our police are constantly training to make sure that they do the things right.
Well, speaking of the police department, as an inaugural member of the Teen Universe City program, I mentioned at a city council meeting that the Round Rock Police Department really needed to up their game on giving tours. So have they made any progress in that area, or is the fire department still making them look like a bunch of "you can't play with our toys" type of nerds?
Well, I hope they did. Unfortunately, you're the only class that's come through right now from the team. We want to continue that, but with COVID, we haven't been able to. So we haven't gotten to see the other feedback since then. So, but I did know the chief heard you. That's what I do know.
Well, if they up their tour game, then we shall see. It was a really good program, and I hope that once COVID situation gets more settled, I really hope it can come back because it was very educational for that time of life.
Oh, we will. There's no doubt that will be a program that we will continue once we can do it.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's a lot easier doing that in person than by Zoom. You wouldn't get the same benefit.
The fire department lets you like spray down practice fires and stuff. Like, I'm just saying the fire department was pretty sweet, and the police department still.
Yes.
Sorry.
So earlier you mentioned the election this week, and I believe that big congratulations are in order because you just won 100% of the vote in Tuesday's election.
Yeah, that's a.
It's a very impressive.
Those are lucky times.
All right, now the big scary question. Tell me why I shouldn't run against you for mayor of Round Rock in 3 years.
Well, you would win, so I don't know that I don't know that I could tell you not to. The first time I ran, I had an 18-year-old run, and he got, I think, almost 10% of the vote. So that's a great question. I would never, when people talk about, challenging me in city council races and potential mayor races, I'm not going to ever be the guy that says, no, you don't need to run. That's just part of it. I told a news reporter today that, this seat's not my seat. It doesn't say Craig Morgan's seat. It's the people's seat. And I'm one that will accept results of an election and move on. And so I would never tell you to. So if that's something you really want to do, I'm sure not going to be the person trying to talk you out of it. Now, I would hope you wouldn't, but
Well, yeah, I still got a TV show to launch and run, so I think you're safe for now.
Thank you.
So does the city of Round Rock have an official goodwill type ambassador position, like someone who exemplifies the Round Rock spirit? Because if it does, I might know a guy.
Yeah, they we have I will say we have a PR team that does a lot of that. I'm probably the biggest cheerleader for the city being in the role I'm in. But we have a great PR team, and we have, I think for a city our size, we have about 6 employees dedicated to public relations, and they did a great job. And we win awards all the time across the state. And I think that's something really important. You mentioned that. I mean, you know, you kind of joke about the goodwill factor, but if you're not telling your story, no one's going to tell it for you.
Oh, I guess it's a good thing I'm getting this out there. And it's a good thing I have you on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you responding back to us. So just one final question that we're asking all of our guests this season. If you had a magic wand or monkey's paw or deck of many things or some other magic item that would allow you to change 2 things about the world, what would you change?
Well, the first thing I would change is kind of how we are right now as the world. You know, we neighbors can't talk to neighbors. We can't agree to disagree. You know, and it's just gotten so divisive and ugly. I mean, I've seen neighbors in my own neighborhood that, especially during this election time, I mean, if you have a certain sign up, they don't want to talk to you. And, you know, that's what makes America so great. I don't want, you know, as the famous saying says, if you're always the smartest one in the room, change rooms. You know, and so if I could do anything, I would just try to change people back to, hey, you know, I saw a meme that said, humankind, be both. And so that would be probably, you know, the first thing I would change. And just, you know, that remember that we're all Americans. I mean, we're one nation under God, and it didn't say, you know, 5 nations. It's we're all Americans. And so that would be the number one thing I would change is just, and I know there's great people in America, and there's great people in our city, and people doing everything they can. And then, you know, I think that this, you know, with COVID-19, there's a lot of suffering right now. There's families suffering. You know, when this first went on, you know, our small businesses in downtown Round Rock, you couldn't get in parking down there. And then when COVID hit, it was a ghost town. And we started a program immediately to help our small business community. But they've got families that have to pay bills. Our Round Rock Service Center has increased its, you know, the demand on them has gone through the roof. You know, and so I would reverse the suffering that many families are going through, depression, addictions right now. I mean, they're all, you know, abuse. You know, when the schools were out, that was one of our public safety's biggest concern is child abuse, because usually those are reported by teachers. And so I think those are the 2 things I'd change right now. That, you know, I just, you know, I love sitting with people when they don't agree with me. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. Matter of fact, I try to learn something from them.
All right. That's very wise. Thank you, Mayor Morgan, for joining us today. And everybody, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Oh, hey! Thank you very much for watching. We'd like to thank Mayor Craig Morgan for coming on the show and also express our utmost excitement at getting a new president and vice president. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, it is what it is.